The grief of a mother is a weight heavier than any stone mountain. For Debbie Duncan, that weight has been pressing down since June, when her 19-year-old son, Jay Slater, disappeared in Tenerife and was later found lifeless among the unforgiving cliffs. The world may have moved on in daily headlines, but for her and her family, time stands still, a cruel loop of disbelief, sorrow, and aching memories. Now, as they prepare to bury the boy they once knew as a cheeky, football-mad teenager with a grin too wide for his face, their mourning has been dragged into another cruel arena, the battleground of social media. We're burying a son, not planning a party. When Debbie first set up a GoFundMe page, it was out of desperation. The frantic days of searching in Tenerife were draining every penny she had, and strangers from across the UK, parents, football fans, even people who had lost children themselves, reached into their own pockets to help. In total, the fund swelled to over £60,000. At the time, it felt like a lifeline. But in the months that followed, whispers turned to sneers. Trolls began to crawl out of the shadows of the internet, questioning where the money had gone, accusing Debbie and her family of exploiting tragedy, and even mocking the plans to give Jay the biggest and best send-off. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Debbie has had enough. Through tears and fury, she spoke this week. We are burying a son, not planning a party. People need to understand that. Jay deserves a funeral that reflects how much he was loved. But instead of compassion, we've had strangers tearing us apart. It's vile. A life too short. To understand why the family is so determined, you must first understand who Jay was. Friends describe him as the lad who never wanted to go home, always the last to leave the pitch, the dance floor, or the group chat. He lived in Oswaldtwistle, a small Lancashire town where everyone knew his name, not because of trouble, but because of his energy. He was like a sparkler, said his best friend, Lucy May. Burning bright, sometimes too bright, but you couldn't take your eyes off him. It was Lucy who raised the alarm when Jay went missing in Tenerife. She'd flown out with him for a festival, 3 carefree days of music, laughter, and sun. None of them could have imagined the darkness that would follow. The search that broke a mother. For nearly 2 weeks, Debbie scoured ravines and cliff paths, calling his name into the wind. Volunteers joined her, police combed the terrain, and helicopters buzzed overhead. Each day ended the same, no Jay. When his body was finally found, reality arrived with a cruelty that words cannot capture. Debbie collapsed. Friends say she screamed so loud it felt like it shook the island itself. Back in Oswaldtwistle, the community gathered in vigils, tying ribbons and leaving flowers. But grief soon met with practical reality, the cost of bringing Jay home, the arrangements for a funeral, and the unthinkable idea of laying to rest a boy not yet 20. GoFundMe, a lifeline turned lightning rod. That's when the GoFundMe came into play. It wasn't just donations from locals. People across Britain felt the tragedy, teenagers who saw themselves in Jay, mothers who shuddered at Debbie's pain. The fund grew beyond expectation. Debbie promised every penny would go to the search, the repatriation, and the funeral. But trolls pounced. Some accused the family of using tragedy as a cash grab. Others suggested the funeral shouldn't cost more than a fraction of the fund. A cruel minority even mocked the idea that Jay deserved a grand send-off. On Facebook and TikTok, faceless accounts left comments like, "60K for a funeral? Pull the other one. Bet they're enjoying their Tenerife holiday now. Biggest and best funeral? What is he, a celebrity?" Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The comments stung. Not just because of their venom, but because they undermine the simple truth. A family wanted to bury their son with dignity. We're not rich. We're not scammers. Jay's uncle, Mark, broke his silence last week to defend the family. We're not rich. We're not scammers. People gave that money willingly to help. It went on flights, hotels, the search. And now it's going on Jay's funeral. Every single penny is accounted for. To see strangers call us liars while Debbie cries herself to sleep every night is disgusting. Debbie herself added, "If people could see the bills, the reality, they'd understand. A funeral isn't just a coffin and a service. It's cars, flowers, the wake, the burial plot. We want to make sure it's something that matches the love we all had for Jay. Why shouldn't he get the best? Still, the trolls haven't relented. Instead, they've grown bolder, some even suggesting the family prove where every penny has gone. The plea for more. Despite the £60,000 already raised, Debbie has admitted the costs keep spiraling. She wants to hire a larger venue so that everyone who loved Jay, and that's half the town, she insists can attend. He wasn't just my son, he was everyone's mate. We've had people message from Scotland, Wales, London, all wanting to come. We need space. We need it to be right. If it means asking for more, I'll do it. Because my boy deserves nothing less. Her words have sparked fresh debate online. Supporters have rallied, urging people to ignore the trolls. One wrote, "If you don't want to donate, don't. Simple as that. But don't attack a grieving mother." Another said, "I gave a tenner because I saw my own son in Jay. If that helps him get the funeral he deserves, then it's worth it." A divided public. The controversy reveals something deeper about modern grief. How it is lived not just in private, but in the harsh glare of social media. Crowdfunding has become a tool for families in crisis, but it has also opened doors to public judgment. Dr. Elaine Harper, a sociologist who studies online grief communities, explains, "What we're seeing is a clash between compassion and cynicism. Crowdfunding exposes very intimate aspects of mourning to strangers. Most people respond with empathy. But for some, it becomes an excuse to scrutinize and attack. In Jay's case, the fact that he was a teenager, holidaying abroad, and connected to nightlife made him a lightning rod for judgment. There's an ugly undercurrent of he brought it on himself, which is deeply unfair," Harper added. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Preparing for the biggest and best. Despite the online noise, plans for Jay's funeral are well underway. The family hopes to secure St. Paul's Church, the largest in the area, and arrange a procession through Oswald High Street so the community can pay respects. His coffin, they say, will be carried by teammates from his local football club. Flowers will spell out his name in giant letters. And at the wake, they want music, the songs Jay danced to, laughed to, lived to. It's not about extravagance, Debbie insists. It's about memory. When people walk away from that day, I want them to say, that was Jay through and through. The silence of the haters. As the date approaches, the trolls grow quieter. Perhaps even they realize there is nothing funny about a coffin carried by boys who should have been planning nights out with their mate, not lowering him into the ground. Still, the scars remain. Debbie has vowed never to read the comments again. Instead, she focuses on the small acts of kindness. Neighbors bringing food, old school teachers offering to speak at the service, strangers sending handwritten cards of condolence. Those are what matter, she said. Not the poison. Legacy of a short life. When the funeral finally comes, Oswald will stop. Shops will close, football matches will pause, and crowds will line the streets. It will be, as promised, the biggest and best. And when the last note of music fades, and the last flower wilts, Jay's story will remain, not as a tale of trolls and cruelty, but of a boy loved so fiercely that thousands of strangers felt moved to stand with his family. For Debbie, the pain will never leave. But she hopes her son's legacy will be this, a reminder that grief deserves compassion, not suspicion. Final words from a mother. Before she closed her latest statement, Debbie whispered something almost too soft for reporters to hear. If people could spend just 1 minute in my shoes, they'd understand. They'd know why I'm fighting for Jay's funeral to be the best. Because I'll never get another chance. My son only gets one goodbye. And in those words, all the noise of the internet fades. What remains is the truth, a mother, a son, and a farewell no family should ever have to make. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.